Hello, Athens. Remember me, Jane Benwell? Maybe not. I've been gone for a while, and you may have moved on to other things, and I wouldn't blame you. But I'm back. Here I am. And Kaleidoscope will keep moving. I had a bad winter with a lot of health problems, which is why I haven't been doing any Kaleidoscope shows. But now, winter's over, I'm healthy, and we're going to do some really fun shows in the spring and summer, I hope. I mean, I hope you'll think they're fun. I already think they're fun, and we'll see what you think. So today, we're going to have a couple of guests, and I'm going to do an interview. So I think that's going to be interesting, especially for those of you who saw the production that was recently in the, I believe it was the Cantner Theater on the OSU campus about Tammy, Faye, Bakker. It was a fascinating show, and we're going to have two people who were involved with that show today, and we're going to talk about them and maybe a little bit about Tammy Faye as well. And if you don't remember Tammy Faye Bakker, she and her husband Jim Bakker were evangelical preachers and had a TV show back in the 70s and maybe into the 80s. I'm not sure exactly the timeline. We'll find out from the ladies we're going to interview today. And they had a fantastic run at this. They built a huge complex down in North Carolina, and then it all fell apart, and Jim Bakker ended up going to prison, and all kinds of bad things happened. So it was one of those situations where you see, which you see from time to time, of a person or a group of people who go really high and then come crashing down. So that makes it interesting, as well as their personalities. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then on down the road, I have this idea for the Kaleidoscope show, a little bit different maybe. It's always been about Athens, or supposed to be about Athens. We've had a lot of my travel monologues and things like that, but I have this idea to expand it a little bit, and during the good weather and, you know, the spring and summer, to go to some places around that are interesting and do a tour, maybe do a little bit of a show, maybe find somebody I can talk to in that interesting place. And one that I have on my horizon that I've been interested in for years, and in fact, I drive past it on the way up to my son's house whenever I go, and that is the old Mansfield Reformatory. It's open for tours now, and I want to go and take a tour and do some taping and, you know, get some information and talk to the person who gives the tour. And it's just, I don't know, I worked in the prisons, as I've said before, maybe you remember, Ohio prisons for 8 years, and there's something about that that fascinates me. So I hope it's interesting to you as well. And that old prison is, since they tore down the Ohio Penitentiary, I think it's the oldest one we have, and full of stories and, you know, what all happened there. We'll never know that. But there's just something fascinating about that. I think there's supposed to be ghosts there. And remember, Dan had a thing about ghosts. We had a big ghost situation. Not that I believe that there are ghosts, but you know, you think when a place is that full of emotion, violence, you know, whatever, there may be some things lingering. So anyhow, that's one idea I have, and I hope you find that interesting. And then my son lives up almost on Lake Erie, and one of the things I want to do also is take you on the boat that goes from over to Put-in Bay, and a little trip around Put-in Bay that's a lovely spot, and you know, you might enjoy seeing that if you never have, and if you have, you might enjoy seeing it again. I just have some ideas like that that will take us a kind of a field from Athens, which doesn't mean that we won't do things around Athens, because of course we will do that too, especially the music on the green and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I think that's a lot of fun, of course, every summer. And, you know, and of course I'll probably have interviews too, because I have a couple of people on my horizon that I would like to talk to and find out more about, and who do interesting things. So, you know, that's kind of where we're going to go from here in terms of the show. If you have any ideas, you can feel free to email us here at the at ACTV. You can go on the website and find the email address, and, you know, give us suggestions. There's probably places around here closer than Mansfield and Lake Erie that would be interesting. I know Blennerhassett Island. I think there's a tour of Blennerhassett. That would be fun, interesting, right in the middle of the Ohio River. I kind of have a feeling, I kind of like the Ohio River because I was born right on it, practically. In Wheeling, West Virginia, the hospital was almost right on top of the Ohio River right there. So I've always felt, I don't know, it's kind of a kinship with the Ohio. So maybe Blennerhassett would be a good spot too. So anyhow, all suggestions will be considered if you choose to make some. But if not, then I'm just going to let my imagination roam, and I'm going to go out and about and see what I can get for us to see in terms of interesting Ohio places. And, you know, the more I could find in Athens or Morgan or any county around here, Megs, would be fun too. So I might do some research and see what there is right around here that nobody really knows a lot about that would be interesting. And maybe there's Marietta, you know, I don't know. I'll see what I can do. So that's kind of where I've been thinking we might go with this, because I don't know, I just feel there's not enough interesting stuff in Athens to keep me going. And, you know, maybe you won't like it that I said that. You know, you may think this is the most fascinating place on earth. For some people, I'm sure it is, but I don't know. I just can't seem to get excited about every 2 weeks developing a show on something happening just in Athens, which is why I want to go further afield. But no further, I mean, it's definitely going to be Ohio. It won't, if it isn't Athens, it'll be somewhere in Ohio. So anyhow, that's me. That's where I've been. My health problems are much better now. I can walk. One of my health problems was with the Achilles tendon in my right leg, and that was so painful. If you've never had Achilles tendon problems, you have no idea. It was horrible. And really, the doctor put me in a boot, but still, at the end of the day, I mean, just walking was awful. And going up and down stairs, if I had to do that, was even worse. So that has pretty much calmed down. And several other things that more minor, but still annoying. You know, and here's the thing that really upsets me. It shouldn't. I mean, I should know. But every time you get something, you go to the doctor, the first thing that they say to me is, well, you know, Jane, as you get older, I tell you, what's that got to do with anything? You know? I mean, and then he turns around and tells me, kids get Achilles tendon problems. Well, then why say to me, as you get older? So anyway, I got fed up with that little sentence, and I heard it several different times. But even though they said that, I have managed to bounce back. So Yay. I'm gonna bring that up. My final visit to the doctor about my Achilles tendon is a week from Monday, so I'm gonna remind him he said that. And I healed up anyway, haha, even though I am getting older every day. So, hope that whets your appetite for Kaleidoscope. I'm happy to be back, and as I said, happy to be planning some fun things to do, interesting shows for us in the next few months. So, tune in, watch Kaleidoscope, give me some feedback if you want to, suggestions where I could go in Ohio that would be of interest to you, and I'll try to do it. Have car, we'll travel. Okay, thanks for joining us today. And now we are going to have our interview and discussion with the two ladies that brought Tammy Faye Bakker to Athens, Ohio. Well, hello and welcome back to Athens Kaleidoscope. And as I promised, although you can't tell it from what you see right now, there are people here to be interviewed. Now you can hear them. We're going to talk today about a play that was put on at Ohio University that was written and acted, at least mostly acted, by one of these ladies, written by both of them. The person who played Tammy Faye, you're going to meet in a minute, allowed her husband to be involved. I think that's really nice.
I'm generous that way.
Yeah, you made it a family affair. So, of course, we had to have Jim Bakker if we had Tammy Faye. So that's what we're going to talk about, and kind of the philosophy of how do you get an idea and then write it up and then get it actually to become a reality on the stage. Quite a feat, I think. So, with no further ado, let me introduce to you Mary Bakker, who I thought was the author, but she said Shelley Delaney, who's sitting right here next to her, was also the co-author, and she also played Tammy Faye. So we've got a whole lot of interesting stuff to find out today from them. And so, Mary, let me start with you. Okay. Whose idea was this?
Yes, it's a good question. It was Shelley's idea to begin with. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to defer to her for this part of the question.
Okay, so I was saying earlier, a lot of times people say, oh, I had it in a dream or something. So where did it come from, Shelley?
It's a little overly generous of Mary to say we co-wrote it. We didn't. She is absolutely the writer. I think that because we know each other well, because we're good friends, because we were together in the evolution of the process, there are certainly things that have come from me that have evolved into being in the play, but Mary is absolutely the playwright. I absolutely am not. Tammy Faye Bakker died in 2007. I have probably only seen Larry King 3 times in my life, and on the night of her final interview with him, which was 7 hours before she died, I saw it.
Wow.
It was not habit. It was not, I don't know why it was on. I don't know why I watched. But I watched. She was 65 pounds, dying of lung cancer. It was clear she was not long for the world, and she was still in front of the cameras, still testifying, still witnessing, still being witnessed, and I was moved, disturbed, and flabbergasted. Mm-hmm. No idea why she was in front of the cameras, and having seen her incrementally throughout my life in various phases of her career, I knew that it was like a life in front of the cameras. But with reality television having started to really land at that time and gotten so much more exponentially awful and a part of our lives, the idea that she has always played her life out in front of the camera, I was suddenly like, well, it looked so much more interesting to me than it ever had before, because now we look at everybody on camera, and I don't, it's not my favorite thing about what we do on television or what we do as a country. So I did not know what made her tick. I think I come closer every time we work on it. I'm still not sure I know, and those big questions to me are the most interesting things to do theater about, so I had no idea what made her tick.
Yeah, well, and I think those of us who grew up with her, because I kind of, a sister of a friend of mine discovered her because she had to get up really early in the morning to go to her job. And she turned on the TV and there was Jim and Tammy Faye. And she had come from a really religious family. And the idea of all that makeup and everything was like anti-religion for her. And she was just fascinated by her. And she called everybody and said, you have to look at this woman. Tell me what you think. And so I'm with you.
Yeah.
What made her tick? Because you play her, and I believe it's probably true, as being truly a religious person.
Yes, yeah, I
And
do.
yet, there she was in all that Las Vegas kind of, wild makeup and hair and jewelry and clothes, and it is a conundrum.
Yeah, I would argue it's more of a mask.
Oh, yeah.
That without that, she'd have to reveal. It would be whatever it is she's trying to reveal. If she is trying to reveal, she'd have to reveal it more deeply, and so it's less scary to have something between you and your public, you and your children, you and your husband, you and your life. I think
That makes sense to me. It really does.
Yeah,
And you can kind of hide there, I guess. So, okay, so she said to you, I saw Tammy Faye Bakker.
Right.
And
We started thinking about what a trajectory of a narrative would look like. And we both started with the amazing documentary, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It is this fascinating documentary about her, narrated by RuPaul, which you wouldn't normally think of as being someone who would be in her life. But as we also look at in the play, and as they also look at in the documentary, Tammy Faye and her ministry in the beginning was very open to the gay community, and she has always sort of been a gay icon. So we started with the documentary, and we started with her autobiographies. And I think one thing that really spoke to me early on was she talked very openly and in very loving terms about a religious experience she had at the age of 10. And I think that fascinated both Shelley and I, the idea that something that could happen to someone that young would set the trajectory of their lives. And so when she talked about this, she talked about it in terms of it being very spiritual, but the surrounding facts of it seemed a little odd to us. And so that sort of began the springboard of asking questions. And I think with any artistic endeavor, you have to start with asking questions. And that was sort of where we started with asking the questions of, okay, if this is what happened to her at 10 and this is where she ended up, how do these two inform each other?
and it shows you she is a creature of contradictions, really. I mean, 10 something, and then how in the world would that little 10-year-old girl who had an experience turn into this fabulous creature? It is pretty amazing.
It is.
There's no doubt about that. And not only that, but I don't know. I mean, you explored her life. I know nothing. I know nothing except what I saw in the play and what I saw on TV. But there's a gap in there from that to Jim Bakker and subsequently all the things that happened to her. So where was she in there in those maybe 20 years or something between the time she was 10 and showed up on TV with her?
It's
a lot
so
shorter.
much less time than that.
Really?
19.
She
They
met
in
17,
They
yeah.
met when she was 17 in Bible college, and I think they were on TV by the time she was 19.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The first shows, the
Right.
children's shows, the puppet shows, maybe 20, but it wasn't that long. And
I didn't even realize.
she writes quite a bit, and also very kind of lovingly about her girlfriend who introduced her to mascara. It's just a really funny thing because she talks a lot about feeling pretty for the first time, and she talks a lot about the makeup and things about being pretty, but it wasn't as long as it seemed. It's actually quite quick. She was barely out of high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she really didn't have in life much at all before she started doing this.
She didn't.
No, she had nothing. She was the oldest of how many children?
Oh, gosh. I would have to look back. 7?
7. I was going to say 7 too,
Yeah.
so I'm guessing that's probably very near to right. She was the oldest, and she had a lot of responsibility, a lot of parenting responsibility, a lot of taking care of her siblings. So she grew up fast. They had very little money. Religion was central to her life in a lot of ways. The play tells you that her father left her mother not long before
Right.
this religious experience, and he had been a man of the church, and they were thrown out of the church, and this religious experience, this talking in tongues, got she and her mother invited back into the church. So that's an interesting paradoxical moment anyway, which is something happened to her. That something healed her family to some degree. So why it happened to her, your guess is as good as mine. I can only believe what she believes when I'm working on her, which is that, God spoke through her. That's all I can believe. But as, people who collaboratively have to look from the outside, it's like, is it brainwashing? Is it, is it God? Is it, I don't know. I know what she believes.
For
I
sure.
believe I know what she believes.
Yeah, I think
that's
you're probably
speculation
right.
as well.
But I think, don't you think, in that situation, she must have been desperate. Her family falling apart,
Maybe, but I'm not sure it was calculating. You know what I mean? I think I think at 10 you want to be loved. And I think that was also something that came up over and over and over in her life, of her wanting to be loved and wanting to be accepted. And we work with that a little bit in the play.
yeah,
Well, I
for
think
sure.
we work with that a
lot.
huge amount.
A lot, yes.
And I think it's the central thing that helped me understand my relationship to the audience. When in the course of the now 4 runs we've had at it, the 4 different places that we've done it, the relationship of character to audience, me to audience, has gotten much more intimate, much more improvisational, much more close. And part of that was the moment that I went, oh, this is where I get the love. This is why I was in front of the camera. This is why I was in front of the live audiences and in front of the camera, was because this is a direct feed. And in some circumstances, as a theater actor, you're like, not certain you want, I don't know, there's a moment where you make the choice or you don't make the choice to put your hands, yourself that fully into the audience's hands. And with working on Tammy, I feel more comfortable, more at ease, more at home, the more I put myself into their hands. So they do not feel on any level like they're on the other side of the footlights or like they're the other. They feel like they're my purpose. And one would argue that's always true of theater, but in different kinds of plays you have a fourth wall, you're not trying to acknowledge the audience. This one, I'm like, they're on my team. Tammy, desperately needs them to love me. So it's okay that if there's a part of me as an actor, Shelley, who spent my life trying to shed caring whether or not anyone loves me, actually cares if they love me. So I get to like collide into the character and go, please love me. So I just think it's so built in there. But that just might be me.
No, I saw it, and I agree 100%. And I saw her on TV and weeping, and I mean, she just went all out to definitely bring those people, and I think that's what caused them to be able to raise all that money and everything, was because people just believed in her and believed in Jim. And in her case, there was a lot of genuine emotion there, I think. In those TV shows.
She needed somewhere to put it. And
Yeah.
that's where it went. But I think it's genuine too.
Yeah. So how in the world did you ever write this? I mean, there's so much here. It's like a fountain. It just keeps going and going.
Thank you. I don't know how I wrote it. This happens all the time with me. When I'm in the process, it feels that it will never be done and it will never be good and every day is a drudge. And then it's over and I'm like, I don't remember how I did that. So I do know that we read the material, we worked collaboratively a lot. But then at some point you've got to put the research aside and you just have to say, okay, I'm going to trust my instincts that these people are speaking to me well enough now that I can just go with that. And I knew from the very beginning that we wanted it to be her last hour on Earth, and her trying to have one more TV show felt felt like it was something that she would want. And so in this sort of morphine haze, that's why I made the decision to have one actor play all the male parts, is that in her mind, whoever is in the room, which happens to be her husband, Roe Messner, that he's everybody, or maybe he's not in the room either. I don't know. But there is one actor who plays all four of the men in her life. Jim Bakker, her former husband, Roe Messner, the husband she was with when she died, her son, Jamie Bakker, who's also a preacher, and Jim J. Bullock, this fabulous actor who was her TV talk show co-host in the 90s.
Okay, I remember him.
Still working as an actor. He's doing Broadway
is.
national tours.
No kidding,
Yeah,
really.
all kinds of interesting
Wow,
things. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that in and of itself, just having those different men come in and out and kind of, she stays a central character and the men come and go, is what her life was about too.
Yeah,
You know,
maybe
those
so.
those men, I think, you know, for her, and I really got the feeling of this in the play, is that she wanted, whatever man she was with, she wanted that to be forever, and she wanted to, you know, this is it for me. I mean, you know, when she was with Jim, he was the, you know, the earth to her, everything. So it's so interesting to see how that all these things, and all women, I mean, she isn't alone in this, you know. All women have shades of this, whether, I think, big or little. So what's so fascinating to me is that she is a character that I kind of laughed at, you know, and back in the day, and I felt sympathy and empathy for her a little bit too, you know, I could see things about her. But in some kind of way, she transforms into every woman. Every woman has these insecurities, every woman, don't you think?
Thanks. Yeah.
Angst.
I
and-
guess. Yeah.
And it's just, and it's almost scary. When I was watching that play, I was going, oh my God. You know, I saw myself in, I never thought I would in Tammy Faye, but yet, you know.
Yeah.
And-
That has been very interesting for me in the course of the journey to be more like, oh, and
Yeah.
you know, it's hard to know, having done this all my life, done hundreds, certainly over 100 roles at this point. You know, where do I stop and where does the character begin? Where does the character stop? Where do I begin? And, you know, I feel like when I'm working well on any kind of character, no matter how far they are from me, that of course there's a lot of me in there, or of course I'm letting things out that I would not normally let out, but that they were alive in me somewhere. This one has been a little bit overwhelming by some of the things that I go, oh my gosh, look at that. Stuff in myself that I would not have acknowledged on any level until Mary forced me to, in a way. And then, to me, it's
all
like
your fault
really
is.
healthy therapy. It's just
Yeah.
like, well, I don't have to pay a therapist to get me to answer these questions. I get to just ask them every night for 50 people or 100 people or 150 or wherever we
Right.
are. So
So that leads
yeah.
me to want to ask you, how do you prepare to get into this character? You come as yourself, you know, and then you go on stage as
Yeah.
Tammy Faye.
I'm a little like Mary and her process about the play. You know, each rehearsal process is about an incremental specifying, deepening. The lead up to a rehearsal process, if it's a play in which you can, is sometimes about research, sometimes about asking questions. I look at something, if I don't know what it means, if I don't know what the character wants, I'm going to spend a lot of time asking myself. So hopefully before I even get in a rehearsal room, the emotional connection and the purpose are starting to either align, or at bare minimum, I'm starting to have a good handle on what they are. And the process then with this, it was interesting. I mean, in our first half dozen readings, before we did the first workshop reading nearly 2 years ago now, I wasn't working with the dialect because I didn't know her dialect. I didn't have it. I imagined she was Southern because she seemed so Southern to me. And then in the course of our research, when we figured out she was from International Falls, Minnesota, and listening carefully to her dialect and finding it was more Minnesota with some other substitutions, I was like baffled. But my natural rhythm and drive is, I'm from Cleveland and I have this flat, hard, landed at the end, and she doesn't.
Yeah.
And for the first reading, I was like, I understand this positive spirit. I understand this perpetual chipper, go for the solution, not the problem. but I don't sound like that. And so I worked very briefly for the first reading with a voice and speech person, Brian Evans, who has done incredible work on this with me. I have a vocal warm-up that I do, an hour-long vocal warm-up I do for every performance that is just about this character, about placement, about tone. But I did an hour and a half's work with him for that first reading, and as soon as I started using the dialect, I was like, oh my gosh, I get it. I get it. And he gave me this note that was amazing to me. He was like, you know, she strings all of her sentences together, and they're usually connected with an and it's because she's afraid that if someone interrupts, she won't get to be heard. And I'm like, well, that is a great voice and speech note. That's a great dialect note. That's a character note. If, you know, you're surrounded by men, and the men are the principal voice, once you start talking, you don't want to stop talking, because someone's going to get in there and you're not going to get to say what you need to say, so you don't leave any space for anybody to come in. And suddenly my rhythm is different, and the tone is different, and the pitch is different. And that was a huge thing for me in terms of just going, it dropping in. And then the rest, it's not that it's mysterious, it's just that it's kind of utterly mine and internal. And my goal is always to take whatever amount of time I have, whether it's 3 weeks or 2 years, to come closer and closer to when I'm performing, when I'm doing it, to throwing it all away and living it out. My goal, because I think it's what gives me pleasure, it's what keeps me doing this, is to be as unself-conscious as possible, to go as close to the edge as I can, to risk failing every night, and to tell the story. And the only way I can do that is with a ton of homework. I have to have this net and this web and an acting partner that I trust to just go and free fall. To me, I don't want to be an actor if it's not like leaping out of a plane. I can't leap out of a plane without a net. If I don't have my parachute, I can't leap out of the plane. But if I can't leap out of the plane, I don't want to be an actor.
Fascinating. I never would have ever thought that acting was like a roller coaster ride like that. You know, to me, I mean, I know nothing about it. You know, never been an actor, just gone to plays and watched, you know, movies and stuff. And I've said, oh gosh, he's really or she's really a good actor, without knowing. I mean, just because they made me feel like I knew the character. That's all.
Yeah.
Little did I know what all this entails, you know? Fascinating.
Yeah, it's a life's craft. It's as much as, you know, any musician with an instrument. We just don't, I don't have the piano in front of me. I've got my body, I've got my voice, I've got my emotional life, my spirit, my psyche. It's, but if you're not doing, you know, the same kind of work that somebody might be doing to be able to play a sonata, I think that it's being dismissive of it as a craft and an art. And I don't think everybody wants to be that free on the ride. I think that's too scary for some actors. I think there are some brilliant actors who want to stay in control. That just, and I don't know that I always know the difference when I watch it, and I've done it as a living as both an actor and a teacher and now a director as well my whole life. But that's what it is for me. That's the challenge for me. The challenge is to let go.
Like, how far can I go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, how far can I go? And in the case of Tammy, how far can my heart be out in front of me? How much can I open my sternum and live out here rather than in here? And that's just fun.
Well, from my perspective,
For
you
me.
did a wonderful job. Because I was on the edge of my seat, you know, really.
Good.
It's
I
a
was,
privilege.
honestly, because it was as much a revelation to me as anything. Even though I had watched her, even though I had read about her, even though I knew the story, all of what this play showed me was, like I said, and I kept saying this over and over until people told me to shut up, was that how we thought she was just a character, and really she was just like all of us. You know, she wanted somebody to love her. She wanted a man to stay with her and be in her life. She wanted her kids to be okay. I mean, it's just what everybody wants. But it was her crazy persona that led us to think that she wasn't like that, you know, that she was something else, but really she wasn't. And I think it's interesting, too, the outfit that you chose. See, I'm all about the costumes.
Yeah.
I love
Right.
costumes. I love, 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 love costumes. And some of the costumes that your husband wore were hilarious.
Yeah.
I have to say.
It's actually, my real husband in life is actually the director. And the two different actors that have played this so far are not my husbands, but they always end up feeling a little like my husband. Yeah.
To me, they're your husbands.
Yes,
I saw them
that's
in
good.
the play.
That's convincing.
And some of those outfits were hilarious. But anyway, so what made you choose pink? That's what I was so interested in.
Do you want to talk about our day at Joanne's Fab?
Well, like any great artistic endeavor, you only ever do it if you have a deadline and if you have money attached to it. And Ohio University was generous enough to give Shelley a research grant in order to develop this play.
To the point of the workshop reading.
Exactly, to the point of the workshop. And so we had a deadline, we had no script, and we had money that had to be spent and a final report that had to be turned in. So we went shopping at Joanne Fabric. And we have an amazing designer, David Russell, who also had known of Tammy Faye, throughout his life and had been fascinated by her, I think probably as much as us.
Yeah.
And so he had a very specific idea that it was about animal prints. And then I think when he saw that pink,
Yeah.
it was just that this is what we need to do for this incarnation. It may change later, but for now, the zebra and the
Yeah,
the
we will have a different one this summer, and in part it's just to get more flowing fabrics. I don't know if it's going to be the same color. And I think my only instinct around the pink and the zebra was I would not put either of those things on my body if my life depended on it. And I think at that point, when it was so new and fresh and foreign, I was like, just transform me. Just help me look in the mirror and see that. And now I'm just like, I'm wearing pink polyester. I feel like a big pink zebra sausage.
And of course, it doesn't breathe. And we did all summer in Cincinnati and DC. It was not pretty.
We're looking for more comfortable fabrics and a little bit more flow. But I think David's fond of the color, and I can't argue because I can't look at it and go, I want to look more attractive by a measure I understand.
Right.
Because her measure is not my measure.
No,
and
not at
so
all.
if I look at myself for whether or not this is attractive by her measure, it is.
Yeah. And after 6 months of watching Shelley put on the makeup, I got to the point where I was like, it doesn't look that drastic anymore. It looks pretty normal to me.
And they kept saying that to me. It was
Yeah.
like, you're not wearing enough makeup. I'm like, man, you're not in front of the dressing room mirror when the wig isn't on and the hair. Because when it's just my face with my hair and the clothing isn't on yet, it is a mask. It's like
I can imagine.
spooky. It's disturbing, but that's also, you asked about process. That's a huge part of the process for me. I'm really glad I'm in a dressing room alone because the hour that it takes to go from me finishing my warm-up to being at places, with each sort of thing, it just sort of starts to go, and I start to just feel like her because I start to look at least like my version of her, and it becomes very foreign. You know, the eyelashes are just like, wow, there you are, there you go, hi there. Would you like to join me this evening?
You have a life of your own.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've heard a lot of Hollywood actors, especially costume, TV and movies, say, when I put the clothes on, I felt, I didn't know if I was going to really feel this character, but when I put the clothes on, it really helped. And I think probably there's something to that, Oh,
yeah.
You're kind of putting on the character with the clothes.
We learned it about my
bit.
nails more than anything. I don't have nails, and Tammy does. And one of the things about the clothing, I can look in the dressing room mirror and I can feel what it feels like on me, and that's going to have a huge influence. But I can see my hands when I'm working all the time, and Tammy's a big gesture and just does a lot of gestures that face this way. And I can see these beautiful nails. And that actually, that's the thing now to me that feels like there she is. There's my Tammy hands. And part of that is because they're visible to my eye. And so to make a fabulous gesture that would not necessarily be mine is a really intuitive thing because she has all this stuff to display. There's the rings, there's the bracelets, there's the nails. And that was a thing I did not expect and hate doing. I don't like the nails. I don't like what, I just don't like them. And then I put them on and I'm like, oh my God, there you are, girl.
Plastic
Come
nails and
on. So that's been really fun, and that really is a final thing for me. And I always think I'm going to keep them because then I fall in love with them. And then the day that they're off, I'm like ripping them off, like, get these off of me.
I know, there's something about those plastic nails that's just, I did them a few times and I felt the same way, like, nah, I don't think so. So how many iterations did you go through with this? I mean, was it did it come full blown?
Oh, no.
It's been different with every performance venue.
It has, and I think partially too, as artists, as writers, we think that it should come fully formed, and it never does, ever, ever. And it is a slog through over and over and over. And we started off with a script that has changed each time we've done it. We've done it 4 times now, 4 different productions, and it will change again. And I'm looking forward to seeing what our changes will be for July.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So it's kind of a living, breathing.
It is. And I know that's the way I think it is with every playwright. Even after they've been published, they're always wanting to get back in there and make changes.
Oh, well, I do some writing, and it's always, I mean, you have to go, no, don't do that. Leave it alone. There comes a point where you just have to say, stop, it's enough, don't do it again.
Yeah.
But I can well imagine that as you hear this dialogue, you know, you can't help but start getting ideas. I mean, it's got to happen. I could see that easily. So the temptation to twiddle.
Right. Exactly.
I get that.
Yeah.
Believe me. So what kinds of feedback did you get from the audiences and the community? Did it make you think about anything? Did you get any feedback that made you go, oh, I forgot that? Or
Talk back.
Yeah, we had a really amazing talk back the final day, the final matinee. We had Delphine Bautista, who is the director of the LGBT Center at Ohio University, and Joe Bianco, who is a psychologist, talk about Tammy as a fundamentalist Christian and as a psychological entity. And they talked a lot about masks, and they talked a lot about how when she was doing the puppet show in '62, how that was not that much different than this mask that she then began to put on with the makeup, and it got more extreme the more she did it.
Which may not be that much different from the speaking in tongues, which is always these things through which I have a voice rather than having a voice itself.
Exactly. So it was just fascinating to hear them
We
talk
were just
about
like,
that. We were like, we should have had you on the first day of
wow,
rehearsal.
where were you? This is
fascinating.
amazing.
Right, and we've been, I mean, we have had amazing response everywhere we've gone. We had glowing reviews in Washington, D.C. from multiple papers. We were not expecting to get reviewed with such a large fringe festival, and so it has been really wonderful.
oh, that's good. Well, I think it fully deserves it because it's something that comes out of the blue, and to me it was like, oh, Tammy Faye, I remember her from all those years ago. You know, kind of forgot about her, and then so your curiosity is piqued, like, oh, what are they going to make of this? You know,
I think the anticipation probably in DC more than anywhere else was that it was going to be camp, that we were going to make fun of her. And I think we knew from the very beginning that there was no reason to look at her if we were going to do that. It's too easy a target, and it's been done too many times.
Yeah, for sure.
But the thing that I think has surprised me, because I think we knew as we approached it that it was going to have to engage her faith and be about her faith in some way, but I don't think we ever thought about it being a faith-based play in any way. It was certainly not purposeful. It's just this is how you tell this story. And to me, you know, the questions about whether or not I lived my life in a way that was purposeful and intentional is the same whether you're asking whether that was God's intention or your own intention. So the bigger questions seem to me to be resonant regardless of faith. But I have gotten several from several different of the venues that we played it in, emails and or written notes from people of strong Christian faith, always positive and always saying, thank you so much for honoring her faith, or this is what it's like to live a life in Christ. And I'm like, I'm a theater artist, and this room that we're in, this is my church. This configuration is where, if I have a soul, this is where my soul gets put out into the world. And so it's been, I think, one of the more moving things for me is to go, this was not purposefully, theater artists are so often known. We weren't going to talk about politics at all, and I won't, but we tend to be, on the liberal side, we tend to, have a very open dialogue about a lot of things, in part because we're asked as theater artists to encounter a lot of material, and I can't judge someone I'm playing. And so you start to open your mind to all kinds of people with all kinds of points of view about the world, as a writer, as an actor, as a designer, everything, because you aren't allowed to judge. You have to fall a little in love with everyone you do, that you play, that you explore. So it wasn't this purposeful thing to, I'm going to back up. We rarely see faith-based plays that are, I don't want to say pro-Christianity, because I don't think that's what this play is, but that look on a Christian faith in a positive light, in an approving light, and that we happened to fall in love with want to explore a person, fall in love with a person who you, if you wanted to honor her, that was the only way to do it, has been this happy accident, and that I think that people of faith respond to it. I didn't expect it, and I'm touched, and I'm grateful, because I didn't want judgment to be in there, but I did not see it coming. I didn't know what strong people of faith would think. I could have guessed, but I had no idea, and I don't know that that's how it will land on everyone, but for the people who have communicated back, there's been a lovely response that I'm just like, well, good, my grandmother's resting easier in heaven. My sister is working a little less hard for my soul now that other people are thinking that we're engaged in something that is helping us out.
I grew up in a family where if you did something on Saturday night, you could definitely go to church on Sunday. No question about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And isn't it interesting that that's an iteration of faith that, or maybe just its life, that you experience as a child, or I did, experience as a child, and you kind of grow away from it as an adult. And then it hits you. There was a guy sitting in front of me that was singing the hymns that were...
Oh, the pre-show music.
Yes,
That's
and
great.
never, he looked like some dude, and I would have never. And he said, oh, yeah, I grew up,
Yeah, we got a lot of that. We got somebody who was a Pentecost, one of my people that went to Rutgers with me, that when we were in New Jersey, that was just like, this is my life. And I was like,
okay. Oh, wow. So that does touch something, and especially if you had that childhood where you went to church and your father got you up, and your mother got you up, and all that kind of stuff. So, well, this has truly been fascinating. I could talk to you guys for 5 more hours. I know, but. Good. Unfortunately, we don't have that much time. No. Maybe you'll come back.
Sure.
Yeah. Because I have more questions.
Yeah.
And
we might have different answers by the time we're done through the next iteration.
Well, now, see, we haven't even touched on the props.
Oh.
And how you chose some of those. I thought the dressing table was genius. I just thought that was genius. That really... spoke to me,
We had no budget, and it was in the prop storage of OU, because we did a production of The Misanthrope, that this was this collision of sort of period-style silhouettes and contemporary, with a contemporary spin on it. And so the dressing table, the chaise, and the poof existed, and it was like, well, that's free.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll build around that. But it was fun. We had not ever had the mirror ball or the clouds on the floor, and that was very exciting.
It was, and we didn't have the video.
Oh.
And the video was new, which was
great.
great.
The video, yeah.
I told you that I read that in the mall of,
You did.
In the mall at Heritage, Tammy Faye had a mall at Heritage USA, the shopping center. And we did not know this when our designer designed the clouds on the floor. that the ceiling in the mall of whatever it was, the mall of Tammy, Faye, I don't think that's what it was called,
Yeah.
was all painted with clouds like that, and I was just
Wow.
like,
But you know,
We knew
that's kind of
that.
a southern thing too.
Oh.
Because where I grew up, some people have their porch roofs
yes,
painted like
I have
that.
seen that. Yeah, up
so
under. Yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, the final question that I have to do before you leave, and I know you have to go. You have a
We have
meeting.
a meeting of the. I'm directing a play right now that goes into tech next week, and I'm in a production meeting in 10 minutes.
Okay, go.
For the
I
next
can
one.
answer this
You're
one.
gonna field it.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
thank
We'll see you
you.
this
Don't forget
weekend.
your
We'll
mic.
take a walk.
Yes,
oh,
we will.
yeah,
We walk.
that's a
That's
good
how
thing.
we mostly do all of our collaboration as we walk. We're neighbors in Guysville.
Great, great. Well, thanks so much, Shelley, and good luck on your next production. And now, Mary, tell me where the name Brick Monkey came from.
Well, our theater company is a professional theater company here in Athens, mostly made up of Ohio University faculty from the Division of Theater. And we all had professional lives elsewhere and came to Athens, Ohio, and realized that in order to work within our union contracts, whether it was acting or directing or designing or writing, that we had to go outside. We had to go to Cincinnati, New York, Chicago, Atlanta. We wanted to do theater here in our community. And so we started a professional theater company here that works within our contracts. And we decided that we didn't want it to be Appalachian, Valley, Ohio, all of those words that come to, sort of put us here, identify us as here. We wanted something that was a little mischievous. We wanted something that also represented the region, so we definitely wanted brick in the title. And we thought monkey was very mischievous. Some of our favorite theaters, other places like in Chicago, Steppenwolf, in Washington, D.C., Woolly Mammoth, they had odd names like that that made you stop and go, what's that all about? And that's why we decided we wanted to have something regional and a little mischievous, so Brick Monkey Theater Ensemble.
Well, I got to tell you, I have a terrible time with names. People's names, any kind of names, poof, gone. When I used to teach, I would tell my kids, if you see me in the mall, come up and talk to me. I'll never remember your name,
Right.
but I will remember your face.
Right.
And a lot of times they'd come up to me and say, I know, you don't know my name. They remembered that.
That's right.
You're right, I don't. But anyway, I got Brick Monkey. It's in my head.
Good.
So evidently, that was a
Good.
good choice because
Excellent.
if I remember it,
Right.
I feel many people can remember it.
Good.
And so this is Brick Monkey is a collaboration among many people who are
Theater artists.
theater
yes.
artists at Ohio University.
And
Interesting.
we aren't actually affiliated with OU, but that's where all of us have our day jobs.
Yeah.
And so when we were looking for a theater to do Tammy Faye's final audition here, it made sense to do it at OU because it was centrally located and we knew that we had all the equipment there. So that's why we did it at the Hahn Theater. Tammy Faye's final audition will be done also in Dublin, Ohio at the Abbey Theater there, July 7th through the 17th this summer. And so if you missed it in Athens, you'll have a chance to see it in Dublin.
Excellent. Well, I may come and see it again.
I wish you would, because I think that you'll get something completely different out of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My friend that I saw it with here actually lives in Columbus, so
There you go.
I'll just go stay with her, whether she wants me or not.
That's right. That's right.
And but the place that it is in Dublin is the new OU branch, right?
Right. The Division of Theater has started a professional theater company named Tantrum Theater, and this will be their first season. The first show will be Little Shop of Horrors, the musical. Tammy Faye's final audition will be the second show, and the third show will be Dancing at Lunasa to coincide with the Dublin Irish Festival.
Oh, okay. Good, 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 good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody who's watching this, if you have the opportunity, and it's not that far of a drive to go to Dublin, it's really pretty easy. Go up 33, get on 270, it's
Right.
pretty easy. Go up there and see this. You will not ever be sorry that you did. You'll have a wonderful experience. And it's been a wonderful experience talking to you,
Thanks,
too.
Jane. Thanks.
And maybe periodically we'll have to
We
have
will.
you keep coming back.
That's right.
Well, if you keep getting these ideas, what else can I do?
That's right. You have to
I have
bring
to,
us back.
Yes, I have to bring you back.
Good.
So thanks a million.
You bet.
And good luck this
Thank
summer.
you. Yeah.
And if you ever need a volunteer,
Okay, I
I'm
will keep
here.
that in mind. Good.
I'm not a bit theatrical. I mean, maybe some people think I am in the sense that, you know, my own persona, but I mean, I've never done anything in a theater, so I would love costumes.
Okay, there
Just
you
a
go.
hint in case you need any. And I can sew.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good.
Who knows? Maybe I'll get a job, folks. You never know. Okay, so that is it for us today. Thank you so much for watching Athens Kaleidoscope. And please come back in a couple of weeks. We're going to have something else fascinating for you. And maybe it'll be about Athens, and maybe it won't. You never know. Might be something far afield. So in the meantime, goodbye, Athens, and thank you for watching.